Capital yesterday for a matchup against the Wizards used their downtime to take in the sights of D.C., which included a tour of the Supreme Court. Coach Gregg Popovich, who's never afraid to weigh in on controversial issues, took the opportunity to voice his opinion on the gun control debate. He said, even if they change the age limit, it's all a Band-Aid. The obvious elephant in the room is the guns, weapons of war, and the magazines. The real discussion should be about the Second Amendment. Is it useful? Does it serve its purpose the way it was supposed to do in the beginning? That discussion should be had. For more on Popovich, here's First Take.
Victoria, thank you. So as you just heard, Gregg Popovich obviously has his Spurs in sixth place in the West and only 2.5 games ahead of the ninth place team. But he's still got time to talk about what's going on in our country, saying it's time to take a look at the Second Amendment. Stephen A., how should ownership feel about Popovich's outspokenness?
Well, normally, you would sit up there and say, or in the case of Gregg Popovich, the fact is Peter Holt shouldn't feel anything. Gregg Popovich has taken this team to the postseason 19 consecutive years. He's got 5 championships. If anybody's earned the cachet to say what he feels, particularly of such a serious matter and something that's near and dear to his heart as a former military man, then obviously Gregg Popovich, above most, has earned the right to do just that. So certainly I totally understand it, and I certainly would never say anything to the contrary. But it's because it's Gregg Popovich, and I think that's the important point to bring up here. If this were a coach that did not achieve what Gregg Popovich has achieved, or to a lesser degree, what Steve Kerr has achieved, and instead they were so outspoken about these issues, but we're struggling, I would have a problem with it. Because if I'm an owner, just like it pertains to a player, I want to know that you're focused and you're handling the things that you can control and the things that your responsibility, your occupational responsibilities entail. And the willingness to speak out so often or what have you would be problematic for me if you were not handling your business. Because just this willingness to speak out about it would not be acceptable to me. But in the case of Gregg Popovich, people like that who handle their business and handle their priorities and clearly have proven this such, I have no issue with it whatsoever.
Gregg Popovich is one of the great leaders in America today. I mean, both as the head of that organization that has had kind of really over the last several decades unparalleled excellence when you consider they're in the mix every single year. They don't take a break. And he speaks out about important issues. You know, the NBA is riding high by letting people speak. Unlike the NFL, they try to muzzle. The NBA is letting people speak. And Popovich, by the way, speaks for the majority of Americans if you look at the polling on these issues. And the fact that he is a West Point guy, former military guy, 5 years active duty in the Air Force, can't be, accused of being some snowflake, as they say, right? Who's going to say that about Popovich? He is showing real leadership. And you never want to sound condescending or patronizing towards athletes, or certainly not coaches, who are much more accomplished than you and also your elders, but you feel proud. He makes you proud, not only of him, but to be an American. And so all those things are true. Now, it is also true that he has never been more outspoken about more high-profile issues than he has been this year. And that coincides with the Spurs' roughest year under his tenure. But of course, correlation does not equal causality. But as Stephen A. points out, some may raise an eyebrow. Wait, are you really focusing on basketball? To that, I would say that if I had a vote, it would go to Gregg Popovich as Coach of the Year. Forget about everything off the court of play, right? Off the field of play, off the court. Gregg Popovich, this season, Stephen A. Smith, without Kawhi Leonard, everyone else is over 100 years old on the team who used to be really good. The young players are useful but not great. This guy, with LaMarcus Aldridge now hurt as his best player, no one else averaging 30 freaking minutes a game has his team in the playoffs in the Western Conference. This might be his greatest coaching job yet. So I hear what you're saying. When you haven't had the kind of success, you don't have the kind of equity Popovich has to kind of take the courageous stands he's taken and to show real leadership, particularly in this season where they're struggling. Maybe some people are looking, but I would argue he is doing his best coaching job, and Stephen A. Smith, the equity he's built, the excellence of the Spurs organization is a reflection of just this kind of leadership he's showing now.
I would tell you, number one, he would be fourth on my list. Mike D'Antoni would get Coach of the Year. If he didn't get it, I would look at Nate McMillan in Indiana, probably Dwayne Casey in Toronto before Nate McMillan, and then Gregg Popovich would come into the equation. That's number one. Number two, the other thing I think it's important to point out about what Gregg Popovich has said, and what I loved about this, it's been real easy and obviously apropos in the eyes of millions upon millions of Americans to go after the president. Gregg Popovich didn't do that here. He talked about other politicians who are elected officials, who have a responsibility to be cognizant of what's going on in the real world and to make sure that policies that are legislated and implemented take those things into consideration for the betterment of our society. It's not just on the president who only gets to sign bills that are brought to his desk. It's up to those politicians on Capitol Hill, 435 congressmen, 100 senators. It's their responsibility to make sure that they legislate and assist in implementing policy that assist our country in a very positive fashion. Gregg Popovich, when he brought up the issue of the Second Amendment, pointed to them and the importance of them doing their job. And what I like about that is the fact that we've spent so much time focused on the president. We've let a whole lot of other politicians off the hook that have not stepped up and have done their job. No matter what your position is, ideologically or politically, I'm talking about doing something. I'm not saying what should be done. I'm talking about doing something to address the issues that are pertinent in our society. Those folks up on Capitol Hill haven't been doing that. We've got governors who've been doing it, but we've had mayors that have been doing it. We've had local elected officials that have been doing it, but our senators and congressmen up on Capitol Hill have not. And Popovich pointed that out, and I appreciate that.
Well, he has not scapegoated. When he's gone after the president, he's done so for good reason that he's articulated, and he's not looking to scapegoat anyone. He makes comments about issues that are important. At times, he feels they're important, when in the past, many in his position have been silent, and he has done an amazing job on and off the court this season. And even if the Spurs were to not make the playoffs, and you could correlate his outspokenness with the first time they wouldn't make the playoffs, that would be coincidence and bad luck.
Well said, guys. We will leave it there. They were the big three that brought a title to Boston for the first time in over 2 decades. So what went wrong with Ray Allen and his Celtics teammates? We'll ask him tomorrow when he joins us. Plus, the Warriors expect KD's return when they face Giannis and the Bucks at Oracle tomorrow night. We'll have full reaction to Durant's battle with the Greek Freak. That's coming up on Friday.